I was washing a mug that had already been clean when my phone buzzed against the counter. The vibration felt louder than it should have. I dried my hands slowly. Like time might soften whatever was waiting. My sister's name sat at the top of the screen. I need a new car. Can you cosign? No hello, no build-up. Just the ask, plain and confident, as if it were already agreed. I stared at it longer than necessary. I knew the math without doing it. I knew her credit. The missed payments she joked about at Thanksgiving. I knew how this usually went. How the family rearranged itself around whoever needed the most at that moment. I typed back I could start rehearsing excuses. Keep dreaming. It was flippant. I knew that as soon as I sent it. But it was also honest. I didn't add a smiley face to soften it. I didn't explain myself. I set the phone face down and went back to the sink. My heart thudding like I'd just run up a flight of stairs. 2 minutes later, it buzzed again. This time it was my dad. The message came in all caps, as if volume could substitute for conversation. Refuse and you're cut off from family events. No context. No preamble. Just a consequence. I leaned against the counter and felt something old and familiar settle into my chest. Not fear exactly. More like the muscle memory of it. This was how decisions were made when I was growing up. Through to manons that pretended to be values. Family first. Help each other out. Don't be selfish. Those phrases had been used so often they'd lost their shape. They were less principles than tools. Pulled out when someone needed leverage, I didn't respond. I put the phone in another room and sat on the couch, hands folded, trying to breathe normally. The silence felt louder than the messages. I thought about holidays. Birthdays. Barbecues where everyone pretended nothing was wrong as long as you stayed in line. I thought about how easily I could make this go away by saying yes. One signature. One more time swallowing the knot in my stomach. Instead, I sat there until it got dark. That night. After the house had settled into its quiet creaks and hums, I picked the phone back up. I scrolled past my dad's message, past the typing bubbles my sister had started and erased, and opened my contacts. The call I made wasn't dramatic. It wasn't fueled by anger. It felt almost administrative. I called the bank where my accounts were held. Not customer service, risk management. A number I'd saved years ago after a coworker mentioned it casually over lunch. I explained the situation in plain terms. That a family member was pressuring me to cosign a loan. That there had been threats tied to family access. That I wanted to understand my exposure if my information were used without my consent. The woman on the line didn't gasp or sympathize. She didn't need the backstory. She asked calm, precise questions and typed as I spoke. When she finished, she told me exactly what steps to take. A credit freeze. A note added to my file. Documentation in case of attempted fraud. She explained how cosigning would legally bind me. How defaults would follow me for years. How verbal pressure didn't change contractual reality. It wasn't new information. But hearing it stated so cleanly felt grounding. Like someone had turned the lights on in a room I'd been navigating by habit. Before we hung up, she said something that stayed with me. People often think these situations are emotional, she said. But the consequences are financial. It's okay to treat them that way. When I set the phone down, the house felt different. Not lighter, just clearer. The next morning, I woke to another message from my dad. We're waiting. I made coffee. I let it cool. I watched the steam fade before I typed, I won't be cosigning. My decision stands. I didn't mention the call. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. The reply came slower this time, then don't bother coming around. It was meant to land like a door slamming shut. I read it twice, waiting for the familiar rush of panic. It didn't come. What came instead was a quiet acknowledgement. Not acceptance, something less resolved than that. A recognition of the shape of things. I didn't answer. The fallout wasn't immediate. There was no explosive confrontation. Just a series of small absences that added up, a cousin's birthday I wasn't invited to. A group photo posted without me in it. My sister stopped reacting to my messages altogether. At first, I kept checking my phone, expecting the threat to escalate. To be enforced loudly. Instead, it faded into a background hum of exclusion. Weeks later, my dad called. His voice was careful in a way I wasn't used to. "We need to talk," he said. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our houses, neutral territory. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't apologize either. He told me my sister had found another cosigner. A friend. He said it like it was proof that the problem had resolved itself. Then he said, "You embarrassed us." I stirred my coffee until it was too dark to see the spoon. I set a boundary. I said. The words sounded strange out loud, not rehearsed. Just factual. He shook his head, as if I were missing the point. Family doesn't work like that. I looked at him then, really looked. At the way he leaned forward, already framing the next argument. At how certain he was that proximity equaled obligation. I do, I said quietly. My finances do. That was the moment the power shifted, not because he conceded, but because I didn't need him to. He left before finishing his drink. After that, things didn't go back to normal. They rearranged themselves. I still saw some relatives, separately, cautiously. Invitations came with disclaimers. Conversations skirted around money like it was a bruise no one wanted to touch. My sister eventually texted me again, months later. Just a photo of the car. No caption. I didn't reply. Sometimes I miss the version of family that existed before the threat was spoken out loud. Sometimes I wonder if I could have handled it more gently. If my first reply had been too sharp. But when I check my credit report and see it unchanged, when I plan my future without factoring in someone else's risk, I feel a steadiness I didn't have before. There was no celebration. No apology tour. Just a line drawn and held. And in the quiet that followed, I learned the cost wasn't losing access to family events. It was accepting that love, once made transactional, doesn't go back to being free.